People are speculating that Xbox first-party games will be superior in 2025 due to its arguably interesting upcoming lineup of titles like Avowed, South of Midnight, and quite possibly Fable. You factor in that these games are releasing as console exclusives to Xbox, along with the day-and-date Game Pass strategy that adds to the rhetoric. This is while PlayStation's first-party releases seeming less diverse in comparison during the same period based upon what we know now. But what about the impact of these Xbox games? Even if in more quantitatively, will they affect gamers the same way systematically as traditional PlayStation bangers do? Also, does PlayStation need these games in order to satisfy their gamers effectively, as we're starting to hear some people say? Those are the big questions. Let's get into it with no further ado. What's up, people? It's your boy, MM2K of Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage. MM2K Gaming back again with another episode of Quick Dose. This is where unscripted, I get into the latest and greatest in the video game news. We talk about the big topic, and man, Amanda, we have a great one for you. Before we get into it, though, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and rock those bells for notifications, please. And stay tuned after this video, because I'm going to be talking further about Xbox accomplishments and looking at who we should actually attribute those to. If you are interested in getting these additional behind the scenes and more deep diving looks in gaming conversations about things that are not necessarily in the spotlight, hit that member button, hit that join button, or if you're on your phone, I think it's subscribe plus, it is now. Hit that button to get access to our member content. Join at the foamy homie level and you'll get access to all the great content available. Also, when hitting that bell, make sure you hit all, so YouTube's algorithm does not disregard content that you may want to see. All right, so let's talk about this. And before we talk about it, I want to show you guys something, right? So this is a list that I got off of Reddit that shows effectively all of the Xbox first party games that we do know of, right? That potentially are coming to the Xbox platform that have been announced. And there actually might be a 15th one by the time this developer direct hits, because there's supposed to be a new game that's going to be mentioned there that I think is supposed to be Xbox exclusive, right? And out of those 14 games that we know of today, there are at least 4 of them. Well, I won't say at least 4. There are up to 4, possibly up to 5 again after this developer's direct, that are first party Xbox games that are either going to be console exclusive and or timed exclusive to the Xbox console. Those games are Avowed, Fable, possibly, South of Midnight, and Gears of War Eday. That's based off the stuff that have been announced. Now, there's been rumors that Fable might get pushed back or whatever. We don't know, but we'll see. Okay, and there's been other rumors that Gears of War Eday, you know what I'm saying, could be announced as well this year. Okay, so effectively, when you look at that, and do you think about, well, what have we been told about first party wise when it comes to PlayStation? What we know of, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat or in the comment section, all I know of is Ghost of Yotei and Death Stranding 2. But like I said in the intro, who's going to have the biggest impact on consumer habits? Is it necessarily the one that it rolls out the most games, right? Because if you think about it, Game Pass has a crap load of games. And we look at how instrumental Game Pass has been in rolling out Xbox consoles, or pushing Xbox to that 100 million users between console, cloud, and PC, how effectively they've done that. Not. And it lets you know that it's about quality over quantity. And another thing that I want to focus on is this first party debate. I feel like the first party argument was something that was thrown out as a chase your tail piece by PlayStation fanboys last generation. They would laugh at the Xbox fanboys and say, aha, you don't have any games. Hi, you don't have first party games, right? And so Xbox went and bought a whole bunch of first party studios and was like, now we got more first party studios than you. And then they're having even a lesser impact in selling their console than they did last gen, even with more studios. It's all about impact. And the only thing that's going to give you impact is quality. It's not quantity, it's quality. Right? So again, I look at those 4 games, Avowed, Fable, South of Midnight, Gears of War, Eday, and I gotta say, do any of those games seem like they're going to have more impact than Ghost of Yai or Death Stranding 2? And I think the answer is easy to conclude, no. But still, are just those 2 games enough exclusively for PlayStation? No. But who's to say that PlayStation, as typically they do, don't have a bunch of second and third party exclusive titles? Because look, when you look at things traditionally and historically, it isn't the first party games that are in the most abundance exclusively on PlayStation. It's not even what made them popular. It's always been their second and third party games. The GTAs, right? The Final Fantasies, correct? And so forth and so forth. Don't get me wrong. Gran Turismo, God of War, some big hitters. But when you look at the biggest hitters, it's traditionally been their second and third party games. Now, last generation, I think we had a year or two where they really had a knockout lineup of first party games. But by that time, the damage was already done. Right? And it was the second and third party games that helped, lead the way. So again, it's all about impact. And I think that's being lost. Now, here's what I want to do. I'm going to show you guys 2 examples. And again, I'm not picking on anybody when I show these examples, even though these 2 examples came from the same person. Let's do this here. And I really think this guy got a cool name, Risk It for the Biscuit. Even though I've seen his stuff in passing. I don't agree with anything that he says, but I understand the mentality that he comes from because I was once there. I once believed that, hey, PlayStation is overrated. The only place that I can get good gaming from is Xbox. And so I just got to sit around with my arms folded until they come around and actually put out good stuff. That's what I thought as well. And then I had to wake up and realize that, no, PlayStation now has picked up that mantle, right? So my brother J-Dub had made a comment about games being on PlayStation or games being on Xbox, and how people are making that argument that this is going to be Xbox's best year and it's going to blow PlayStation out of the water. And he was making fun of another creator and said, you always say that, right? So Risk It said, well, it actually will be their best year and better than PlayStation. Even if they have delays, there's no way they miss. And you guys finally get some games too. Right? And again, if you look at the lineup quantitatively, yes, they have more first party games releasing. But when you just look at the 2 first party games that we know of, I can't look at that lineup from Xbox, even though I admit it is interesting. And I'm not even mad at the argument. Those games are interesting. But the potential impact of those games versus a Ghost of Yai and a Death Stranding, come on, let's be real here. But then we got to factor in that, look, PlayStation is bound to have more exclusives overall that, again, are going to have overall impact. I don't even know if the Xbox first party games are going to have the impact as the PlayStation second and third party exclusives that are coming out in 2025. We will have to see, right? So that's one narrative that I like to debunk that's often put out there about games and the fact that Xbox now is putting out more of them, and this is their year, right? We got to talk about impact. Here's another thing that Risk It had done that again, it It's something that I tried before. Shout out to the homie Will Sinks, former host, one of the former hosts of one of my favorite podcasts of all time. It was called Xbox Uncut. Great lineup there of people. Tim Dog would be there. The homie Chris Steele would be there. And Dustin and others. It was a great show before it went off the air. I've sat with Will Sinks on this channel, and we did exactly what Risk It is doing, where we sat and we pleaded to the Xbox upper brass and said, you guys don't get it. What you're doing here is foolish. It's simple. Stop doing it. You have to put more effort into your quantity attempts. And here's why doing so is important, right? So we did that not fully understanding that Xbox just didn't care about that. And there's a reason they didn't care about that. But we sat up here like Risk It. Cool name, by the way. I love Risk It. Did I say that already? Risk It for the biscuit. Love the name. Don't even know what the hell it means, but I think it's a cool name. Anyway, we sat up here like Risk It, and we tried to make the Xbox plan or whatever with covers of Satya and Phil and stuff like that. Check it out. It's on the channel. It's like 4 or 5 years old. And that's the thing. 4 or 5 years ago, I realized there's a problem here. And I had to skirt away and realize this is out of my control. I'm not going to get what I want as a gamer, even though Xbox supplied it unilaterally back in the day. Not only can they not supply it unilaterally, they can't supply it at all. It's not me who's changed. My standards are still the same. It's Xbox who's changed. And I'd be a fool to sit there with my arms crossed just thinking that they're going to solely meet the needs the way they used to. This is a different Xbox. So I want to address, again, more importantly, I think even more important than people saying, oh, this is going to be Xbox's year. I'm not mad at that argument because, to be honest and to be fair, even though I prefer PlayStation needs to do a better job and be more transparent of what's coming in 2025. They've done a horrific job. Yes, it's cool that you let us know Ghost of Utah is coming. It's cool that everything is heading to Death Stranding 2, which that isn't etched in stone. With that being said, I need to know more. Why can't I know more already? We're already in 2025. What are we doing here, right? So that's why I'm not mad at the argument, and I'm happy, even though it may not materially be true. I am happy that there are people putting pressure on PlayStation to say, well, look, Xbox is putting stuff out and they're being more transparent. You need to do so as well, PlayStation. I'm not mad at that, even though objectively, I don't agree with it. But here's the bigger problem. The bigger problem is not understanding why Xbox is not doing exclusives anymore, why Xbox has done a 180 and they are becoming a glorified publisher that is focused more on direct-to-consumer habits. And the truth lies into the argument of, ironically, it lies in the argument of this is going to be a more impactful year by Xbox than there is on PlayStation. When you look at first-party exclusives, it's not a first-party exclusive's job to sell 1 million units of its game. That's not how first-party exclusives work in this space that Xbox and PlayStation are in. It works for Nintendo because Nintendo's in a completely different space. Most of the money that they make is off of their first-party exclusives. But when you're in the upper echelon, the 20 billion mark that Xbox and PlayStation are in, because Nintendo's only making around 11 billion a year, maybe 12 billion now. Xbox and PlayStation are breaking 20 billion. If you want to be successful in a 20 billion console consumer market, it's not about your content that has to sell a gazillion copies. Your content is a draw. The job of your first party content is to be so phenomenal, so eye-popping, not just interesting. It has to be so drawing, so jaw-dropping, whatever phrase you want to use, that it drives people to your marketplace to where they buy their Fortnite skins at. They buy their Apex Legends skins. They buy their Dragon Dogma 2s and this one and that one, and even Call of Duty. Even though Xbox makes Call of Duty, guess what? PlayStation sells the most Call of Duties than any other platform, and they don't, even though they're only getting 30%, they don't have to deal with the development costs. They don't even have to deal with the store costs because Xbox is paying them for that. PlayStation's cut is pure profit. So when you can do that with all of the big title games, you make the most money. When more people are buying the big title multiplat games from your store, that's how you make the most money in this echelon of the game. You don't make it by selling most of your content. And let me give you another example. Before Xbox bought ABK solely was the #1 sole publisher in the world. Meaning all they did was sell their games in other places. They were #1 at it. They brought in around $9 billion of revenue, right? Okay, I don't think any of us dispute that are in the know. Steam and Nintendo, as far as marketplace providers, were the lowest making marketplace providers. I think Steam is around 10 billion, 11 billion. I think Nintendo brings in around 11 billion, 12 billion annually. That's still more than what ABK, the world's biggest publisher, was doing. The publisher that sells its games everywhere was making less money than the marketplaces that sell a little bit of everything. Why? Because in the video game space, you make more money, you make the most money by selling a little bit of everything more than you do selling your thing solely everywhere. All right? So, that's why even with ABK, the biggest publisher in the world, Xbox is still making less money than PlayStation, because PlayStation sells a little bit more of everything, more so than anybody in the world next to Tencent. Do you understand that? So when you understand that, like PlayStation does, you realize it's not about you selling 20 million copies of Astrobot or 20 million copies of Destruction All-Star. Well, I don't even think that's a first party game, but selling 20 million copies of every single first party game on play. It's not about that. It's about, we talked about this before, having just simply a 40% success rate, meaning 60% of your first party games can sell, not hit their targets. But if 40% do, and half of that 40% does unwieldy numbers like a God of War, like a Spider-Man, like a Horizon, they can fund the other 10 games or the other 8 games, still have money left over while bringing people to your marketplace so they buy their third-party games there. That is the magic sauce. PlayStation laid this out for us in 2014. They told us this in 2014. I hate that I have to keep showing this, but now, mid-video, I think I'm going to do it again. Why not, MM? Do it again for the people in the back. Shuhei Yoshida, the great Shuhei Yoshida that just retired, broke down the PlayStation formula for you in 2014. July 4th, 2014 to be exact. Shuhei Yoshida was at Game Lab in Barcelona for a few days, like a gaming summit in Barcelona, and he broke it down to you. Now, here's how the article reads. It says, when you look at what we do, this is a quote from Shuhei. No. Let me go back a little bit. Back in 2014, remember, even then they were saying, quote, Sony Computer Entertainment has been known to publish quite a few games that haven't exactly been financial breakthroughs. Yet they don't seem to be about to give up on that kind of experience, as explained by Worldwide Studios president Shuhei Yoshida during his panel at Game Lab in Barcelona a few days ago. Let's read it. When you look at what we do, managing studios and managing funds, that's essentially what we do. Look for talent and support talent, because at the end of the day, it's the people that create amazing things. Let me see if I can highlight that for people like my good friend Biscuit that might be watching this. Amazing things. And it's creative team that makes breakthroughs. It's a hit-driven business. We look at our financial results of the titles, and probably 3 or 4 out of 10 make money, and maybe 1 or 2 make all the money to cover the cost of the other titles. So we have to be able to maintain that hit ratio at a certain level to be able to continue in the business. I want to highlight this for my brother Brisket and anybody else that doesn't understand why Xbox just gave up on this. They have to create amazing things, and the hit ratio is simply 4 out of 10, with 2 out of the 10 just being so amazing that they fund the other games, whether they're successful or not, and they do the job of being amazing and making people go, whoa, I'm going to buy that platform, because not only is it a cool place to play my Call of Duty games, but it's also, look at all these cool games I got over here that everybody's talking about. Yeah, I want a game over there. And Xbox knows that they cannot make amazing games, objectively amazing games. Xbox said it themselves. I think it was released during the FTC trial, that they were breaking down games like Last of Us 2 and stuff like that. And they said that Sony studios like Naughty Dog are years ahead of everybody else that makes games. And it would take us a very long time to catch up to that. They made the analysis, we cannot make amazing games. When you look at 2025, these games look very interesting. Yes, they do. But if you want to sell a console, or if you want to drive people to be in your marketplace instead of another marketplace, you have to have amazing games. And I'm sorry, Avowed to the general public doesn't look amazing. South of Midnight to the general public doesn't look amazing. Fable to the general public doesn't look amazing. And Gears of War Eday, because we ain't seen no gameplay, doesn't look amazing to the general public. It may look cool, it may look interesting, it may sound amazing if you're someone like how I was back in the day, and how my brother Biscuit for the Biscuit is now, sitting there with his arms folded and like, well, I'm just sitting around waiting for Xbox to come through, because can't nobody else provide me with great experience or amazing things. It is amazing to someone that's stubborn like that to finally get something. If you're dying of thirst, a thimble of water is going to be like drinking out of a well. But for the general public that hasn't been so stubborn, that actually been playing these games across the board and understand the greatness that's been there at PlayStation for a while now, it's not amazing. It's not bringing them to the yard. It's not going to sell more Xbox consoles. That's why Xbox is done with this. And they're becoming a glorified publisher. What do I mean by that? A publisher that still is in the marketplace space, because they don't want to give up on the DLC, getting 30% of the DLC on Fortnite or whatever. They don't want to give up on that. Because imagine if Xbox were to stop being a marketplace. Again, the difference between their biggest publisher that they own is $9 billion, and they're making I think, what, 22 billion right now? So that's a $13 billion difference. How much of that $13 billion you would think dry up if they got out of the marketplace? They're making more, even with ABK, they're making more money off of services and services tied to the marketplace part than they are on simply selling games. So they still want to be in the marketplace part to give them a boost, because that's what Tencent does. Tencent is just doing it at a greater level. But when it comes to the primarily Western gaming audience and a portion of the Eastern audience that Microsoft or that PlayStation and Xbox are vying for, you make more money as a marketplace than you do a publisher. And that's why that's why Xbox is like, look, they're trying to drive you to our marketplace part. We just concede. That's why even Satya said during the FTC trial, we're still going to be in third place, but we get into a closer third place by having this publisher here. So let's just grow our publishing stint a little bit more. So they're doing more direct-to-consumer stuff like Game Pass being on Fire TVs, all that other stuff. But Ubisoft is doing the same thing. You know, Ubisoft now has a cloud service. Did you know that? Go boot up your Ubisoft Connect on your PC and go look for their cloud games. I think Avatar's out there. They got a cloud service. EA is supposed to be bringing one up. So a lot of these publishers, again, because they can't touch the money of a marketplace, a lot of these publishers are hitting a brick wall where they have to find more money in other places. They don't have what it takes. They realize, like Microsoft had to realize, our game's biggest strength is being in other places like a third party. Our games are not strong enough to draw you to a marketplace. So the best we can do is maintain the marketplace elements that we have that separates us from the pack and puts us close to PlayStation, but it's not going to have us excel PlayStation. It separates us from the other publishers, but the only thing we can do is become more direct to consumer. And what is that? Direct to consumer, like, yeah, most of our stuff is going to be sold on other platforms, but we can sell it to you directly. Their vehicle is going to be Game Pass. Ubisoft is going to be Ubisoft Connect. EA is going to be whatever their platform is, whatever it is, right? And that's how they break through that wall and sell more money, because they realize they can't just like how Sega had to realize in its current light, having cool games is not enough anymore to justify a strict gaming marketplace. It's not going to do it. You have to have, again, let's go back here. You have to have amazing things. And Xbox evaluated themselves. We don't have amazing things. We don't have amazing things. Oh, they got Call of Duty. And what else? If Microsoft were to take Call of Duty off of PlayStation, how fast do you think they would plummet? Now, don't get me wrong. Call of Duty is a phenomenon. You know what else was a phenomenon back in the day, like how Call of Duty is now? Halo. In a similar, when you look at the ratio of gamers versus now, Halo was the biggest selling. Halo was the biggest game back then. And even though they had the biggest selling game, they still lost 29 million to PlayStation's 150 million. That's how important it is to have amazing things consistently pumping out to separate your marketplace from everyone else's marketplace. Xbox realized they don't have enough amazing games. They got some very cool games. They just elevated to some interesting and cool looking titles. People are saying that South of Midnight looks cool. People are saying, including our co-host here on MM2K Gaming News, that Avowed, Cold Blood Sensei says Avowed looks cool. Fable looks cool to some people. Doesn't look amazing. It doesn't justify keeping it exclusive. And if you've been sitting stubbornly with your arms folded, like this, this is amazing, that's because you're getting a thimble of water after not getting some and on the brink of death. And now you're acting like you just got hit with a whale, you know, like you just were dumped in a well head first. Here's my conclusion. It's not port begging, it's trolling, and it's a recognition that, hey, Xbox does have some cool looking titles. They weren't amazing enough for me to dump my PlayStation and start gaming on Xbox or even add it to my portfolio. But if these games come over here, they look cool. I'll try them out over here. That's cool. That sums up the excitement over the Xbox games coming to PlayStation. Trolling and just simply, oh, we're getting some cool looking games over here. But in no way, shape, form, or fashion should this be looked at, because even Xbox ain't looking at it that way. And because they know better now. They've said so. They've explored the possibility and they realize they just don't have it. Just like EA realizes they don't have it. Just like Sega realized they didn't have it. Just like Ubisoft realized that they don't have it. Just like Take-Two doesn't. You don't think that these companies don't have enough capital to try to start their own console and try to be in the 20 billion range with PlayStation and Xbox? They don't have it to do so. They don't have a consistent enough lineup to draw the people there, like how Naughty Dog does it, like how Insomniac does it, like how Guerrilla Games does it. They just don't have it. So they settle for and make a lot of money doing so, but they settle for being a third-party vendor. They settle on being a vendor. And they're going to try to raise their revenue by being direct to consumer more often than not. But again, it's not port begging, it's trolling, and it's like, oh, it's welcome in with open arms. Oh, here goes some more cool titles. But believe you me, the titles that we know of coming from Xbox right now, there is no title from Xbox except for possibly the Elder Scrolls 6 that is going to have any impact as the impact of the Leviathan PlayStation games. None with that potential. Sorry. You guys don't recognize this because as Xbox fans, you suffer from poor pattern recognition. And even though you are forward thinking, you hear things like xCloud and all this other stuff, you're forward thinking with a lack of focus on proper transitional periods. You guys think that Xbox can flip a switch with its money and then go from being a marketplace, even though they're failing there, and all of a sudden just take over with cloud gaming. It doesn't work that way. You got to work towards that. And you guys don't understand the transition that needs a successful transition that needs to happen in order to take place. You forget about all that. You forget that in order to cross this body of water, you need a bridge. So you try to walk over the cliff and you fall face first into the body of water. You do it all the time. I don't think we've been shown anything again outside a fully functional publisher adding to the array of typical third-party games that keep gamers busy. And I think that's what you see outside of the trolling. That's what you see PlayStation gamers opening their arms to. Like, a lot of them bought Sea of Thieves and said, oh, this is cool. They were not willing to dump their PlayStation lineup and head over to Xbox for Sea of Thieves. I hope it makes sense now. I also don't see anything that brought forth from Xbox that would pull those games to a singular platform. I think Avowed, interesting. South of Midnight, interesting looking. Fable, interesting looking. Not amazing. We need amazing things, as Yoshida lined out over 10 years ago, 11 years ago. What can't be confused is Sony's track record regarding impact. So even if all these games land, if all these games hit in 2025 for Xbox, and they do so in more abundance, they still are likely not going to put a dent in the impact and the stranglehold that PlayStation exclusive games offer. Hence meaning to get sales, opposed to the rhetoric out here in these gaming streets, Xbox may need PlayStation more than PlayStation needs them. And with that said, that's it from your boy. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because like I always say, I'm curious what I think. But if you did like what I have to say, check out the links below to follow me. They will lead you again to Hard Knock Digital Culture, Cloud Dosage, and MM2K Gaming. With that said, peace. Have a wonderful gaming day.